They won't even know why they're thinking about you, but they willed relentlessly. Their minds infected, their decisions distorted, their emotions no longer their own but yours to sculpt and command. Machiavelli never used the word obsession, but he described it with chilling precision. Men, he wrote, are moved by only two great forces, love and fear. But beneath those two forces lies something more potent, something deeper. Obsession. Obsession isn't mere attraction. It's not a passing interest. It's a psychological possession. When someone is truly obsessed with you, it's not just about admiration. It becomes a total rearrangement of their inner world. They wake up with your image in their mind. They alter how they speak, how they dress, how they carry themselves. All because of you. Imagine that kind of control. It's not luck, it's engineered. So how do you create this effect? How do you implant yourself into someone's psyche the way Machiavelli controlled kings and courtiers? The answer lies in a single principle. Obsession is not sparked by what you give, ignited by what you withhold. When you're too available, when you flood them with attention, you become predictable. And predictability breeds comfort. But comfort is the death of curiosity. And curiosity, once dead, takes obsession with it. Instead, take the path Machiavelli would have taken, starve them of certainty. Obsession blooms in confusion. It begins when they can't quite place you, and they're unsure whether your kindness is genuine affection or calculated manipulation. When they replay your last glance in their mind, wondering was it desire or was it strategy? This emotional uncertainty locks their mind into an endless loop. Why? Because the human brain despises unresolved questions. You become the puzzle that lingers. You stretch out silences just a beat longer than comfort allows. You respond to messages slightly too late, not enough to offend, but enough to raise questions. You withdraw just as they lean in. You disrupt their emotional rhythm. Machiavelli never offered complete answers. He never declared total loyalty. And he never gave people the certainty they so desperately craved. Because certainty kills the chase. Without the chase, there can be no obsession. Uncertainty lights the fire. And once that fire is lit, you must control how it burns. Now that their interest is piqued through absence and mystery. It's time to mirror them, but only partially. Give them a glimpse of what they want to see in you. It's just enough to make them feel understood. It's not enough. To feel secure, Machiavelli called this strategic reflection. You reflect their deepest desires, but only in calculated doses. Do they admire ambition? Let them catch you dreaming aloud once. Do they long for vulnerability? Show a flash of softness, then bury it beneath a disarming laugh. Do they crave intensity? Offer it for a heartbeat, then disappear behind a wall of ice? The mind doesn't obsess over what it fully grasps. It fixates on what it almost understands. Once they're locked in, trying to decode you, reading into your words, interpreting your silences, you begin to train their mind. This is where psychological engineering becomes art. It's called intermittent reinforcement. Praise, then withdraw. Warmth, then silence. Pull close, then vanish without warning. Repeat irregularly. This pattern hijacks the dopamine system. Their brain begins craving your next move like a gambler waiting for the jackpot. They start checking their phone, rereading your words, overanalyzing your pauses. You become a mental addiction they can't explain and can't shake off. Words, simple messages. Delayed replies, brief moments of attention become powerful because their reward system is hijacked. Just like gamblers sitting hypnotized at a slot machine, pulling the lever again and again. Not because they know they'll win, but because they don't know when the next reward will come. It's unpredictability that keeps them hooked. You're not offering love, you're offering hope. And when hope is turned into a weapon, it becomes more addictive than love ever could. Machiavelli understood something few ever do, the most powerful. Obsessions aren't born from pleasure, they're born from pain. But not the kind you cause, the kind that already lives inside them. Quiet pain. Lingering wounds, abandonment, rejection, insecurity. These are the invisible scars most people carry, whether they show it or not. And you don't create the pain, but you become the one person who seems to recognize it. You don't try to fix them. You don't offer shallow advice. Simply listen without interrupting. You see the parts of them they hide from the world. You acknowledge what others overlook. Slowly, methodically, you shift from being just a person to becoming something far more dangerous, a solution. Being around you doesn't just feel good, it feels necessary. It feels like healing. And once someone associates you with healing, walking away becomes unthinkable. But here's the paradox. If you ever ask for obsession, if you demand loyalty, attention, or devotion, you shatter the illusion.
Act.
True obsession is never requested, it's provoked.
Act.
Than your presence ever could. Let your silence sting more than any words. Let your indifference sharpen their longing like a blade. Machiavelli never begged for loyalty. He didn't need to. He made himself so enigmatic, so compelling, so impossible to decode that people gave it to him without being asked. That's your aim. Don't tell them to obsess, become the obsession. Make them crave the answer to one question. Who is this person really? And never let them answer it. Because the moment they feel they understand you, the chase dies. Obsession evaporates. In certainty, Machiavelli never gave people a final answer. He didn't want to be known. He wanted to be imagined. That's where power lives, not in clarity, but in mystery. You must learn to exist not just in someone's reality, but more potently in their imagination. You must never offer a single, the fixed version of yourself, one face, one tone, one emotion that's predictable. And predictability is poison to obsession. Instead, offer contradictions. Let them see the friction between cold and warmth, between tenderness and detachment, between raw vulnerability and quiet dominance. One day you're intense, unwavering, laser-focused. The next, you're distant, playful, elusive. Today you affirm them with praise. Tomorrow, you gently mock them with wit. And they'll begin to wonder which version is real. What changed? Did I do something wrong? That's the question. That feeds their addiction, not knowing. You don't owe them consistency. You owe them a labyrinth, a beautiful, maddening maze. And if you never hand them a map, they'll wander it forever, searching, hoping, guessing. Do you want to control someone without ever touching them? Control your presence. Machiavelli mastered this subtle art not by overwhelming with attention, but by manipulating timing. It's not just about showing up, it's about when you show up. It's more importantly when you disappear. You want them to think about you for hours? Leave a deep, vulnerable conversation unfinished. Want their pulse to spike when your name appears? Send a message that makes them feel seen, then vanish for half a day. Exit at the peak of emotional energy. Always leave them wanting. You create a silence so sharp it echoes, a void so precise it haunts. Their mind starts spinning with questions. Their heart starts to feel uneasy. And with that, you've entered their mental real estate.
Free.
That's the price of mastery, living in someone's mind without invitation, without rent, without resistance. And how do you secure such a position? Mirroring.
Act.
But not. The clumsy, surface-level kind that imitates gestures or repeats phrases. True mirroring is psychological. It's a classic seduction tactic, but few use it well. Most people think mirroring means copying posture or mimicking tone. That's imitation, not influence. The real tactic is more refined. You reflect their internal world back to them, slightly altered, just off-center. You voice what they've always felt deep down, but never had the courage or clarity to say. You notice details no one else mentions? An old scar, a nervous laugh. Contradiction in their story, and bring it gently into the light. You make them feel known, seen, but not completely. Slightly misunderstood. And that sliver of misunderstanding? That's the hook. It keeps them coming back, eager to clarify, to be seen more clearly. But you never let them, because you're not wrong. You're almost right and almost as powerful. Almost becomes the cliffhanger they replay in their mind. They want to finish the story, fix the mirror, complete the image. But they won't, because you never give them the satisfaction. Nothing common is desired. Nothing easy is respected. If you want to inspire obsession, become rare. Good belly. Understood this deeply. People worship what is scarce. So you must cultivate scarcity not just in presence, but in energy. Your time should feel earned, never assumed. Your opinions, shared sparingly. Your compliments, never tossed carelessly. Your attention, unpredictable and therefore priceless. They should feel that every interaction with you is a privilege. Obsession doesn't stem from constant availability, it grows from earned proximity. They don't fall in love with you as a person, they fall in love with what it means to be chosen by you. And once they feel chosen, they fear being unchosen more than anything else. You don't build obsession with affection. You build it through removal. Right when they begin to feel safe, withdraw. They think they figured you out, vanish. When comfort starts to settle, disrupt it. Shake their emotional foundation, but do it with precision. A single, well-placed pause in conversation, an unanswered message. A change in tone, these small emotional wounds, if delivered carefully, leave lasting marks. But remember, the goal isn't cruelty. It's confusion. You don't want them to resent you. You want them to miss you. Sit with your silence and question every word they spoke, every choice they made. This is the moment obsession matures from interest into introspection. Because now, it's not even about you. It's about how they feel about themselves when you're no longer there. Every powerful figure in history had something memorably unique gesture, a phrase, a scent, a silence that said more than words. These are sensory anchors. They bury themselves in the subconscious. You must do the same. That's a phrase only you use. A certain cadence in your voice when you're serious. A gesture that once seen can't be forgotten. This becomes your fingerprint in their mind. They begin to hear your voice in silence. They see your silhouette in strangers. They recognize you in songs that never mentioned your name. You become not just a memory, but a haunting presence. A lingering question. To make someone obsessed, you must blend the line between self and other. They must begin to see you as part of themselves. Your absence must feel like a piece missing from their identity. This is what Machiavelli did. He didn't simply advise or instruct. He embedded himself into their minds, into their decisions, their fears, their ambitions. He became the quiet voice they consulted in moments of doubt, the shadow that guided their choices without ever appearing. People don't obsess over others. They obsess over who they believe they are when they're with you. That's the illusion you carefully construct in what with grand gestures or dramatic declarations, but with quiet precision. You make them feel stronger when you're near. More wanted, more seen, more whole. It's not just that you understand them, you amplify them. Every conversation, every glance, every subtle suggestion is a gentle reminder of who they become in your presence. And slowly, without realizing it, they begin to depend on that version of themselves. When they're with you, they stand taller. They speak with more certainty. They see themselves reflected in your gaze, and what they see is better, brighter, bolder. But the moment they leave, something dims. A quiet sense of lack creeps in. They don't miss you, they miss themselves with you. That's why they come back. Again and again. You begin to assign meaning to their existence in your life. But you don't rush. You wait until they've already sought your attention, until they've invested something time, emotion, vulnerability. Then you give them a title. You're the only one who really gets this part of me. Or I don't open up to people easily, but you. It's different. I'm just like that. They feel chosen. To lose you now wouldn't just be painful, it would be identity shattering. Because in your eyes, they'd become someone worth something rare. You're not just a person. You're a mirror for their most desired self. and mirrors, true ones, are sacred. People protect mirrors the way they protect their egos. And when the reflection is threatened, the panic begins. Knew this well. He wrote, "Men must either be caressed or annihilated." That is, you either make them feel so safe they melt into your presence, or you break them so completely they forget who they were. But the real art lies in mastering the former, emotional loyalty through intimacy, not intimidation. You hold their secrets, but you never ask for them. You don't demand confession. You sit, silently, attentively, without judgment. And in that silence, they pour trauma, regret, shame. You don't flinch. You don't solve, you witness. By witnessing, you become their safest place, their emotional vault, the one person they trust with the version of themselves they hide from the world. They fear their secrets will rot, left unheard, and that fear binds them to you. The deeper the trust, the tighter the tie. Handled with care, that tie becomes obsession, a quiet, invisible rope pulling them toward you even when you're not there. But obsession isn't just about the present. It's about rewriting the past. That's memory manipulation. You reshape the story of how they've known you. Remember? How you looked at me that day when I said that? That moment shifted something between us. When we passed that place, I could see something change in you. Maybe it never happened that way. But now, it did because you said it did. The human brain is malleable. It reshapes reality based on repetition, suggestion, and emotional charge. So now, you're not just part of their life. You're the plot twist they never expected. The chapter they reread. The moment that redefined everything, an obsession. It dies when the story ends, so you don't let it. You build a mythology together, but you never finish it. You talk about cities you'll explore, songs you'll dance to, sunsets you'll watch. You describe it vividly like it's already happened, and then disappear. You create what Machiavelli would call a political promise. It gives just enough hope to keep them dreaming, but never enough certainty to feel fulfilled. That unspoken what if comes a sharp hook lodged in their subconscious. What if we really went there? What if they were the one? What if I already lost them? These questions keep the story alive, suspended in their mind like fog unresolved, irresistible. Every time life gets cold or dull, they return to the warmth of that imagined future. Because you didn't just enter their life, you altered their timeline. You became a turning point. A person who arrived quietly but shifted everything. Someone not easily forgotten. To seal the obsession, there's one final ingredient: fear. Not overt fear, not loud, just a quiet panic beneath the surface. A fear of losing you, a whisper that says, if they leave, I won't just miss them, I'll lose part of myself. That's when the equation flips. Your presence no longer needs to be earned. Your absence becomes unbearable. Machiavelli never had to threaten power directly. He just made sure people feared the idea of being outside his circle. Not by force, not with threats, but through subtle absence and the quiet psychological weight of detachment. He never needed to say a word. He simply made proximity feel like privilege and distance feel like exile. When someone senses Avon, for a moment that your attention could vanish without warning, they begin to panic. That panic doesn't come from dislike. It comes from uncertainty, from the sense that something valuable is slipping through their fingers. So how do you spark this fear without saying a thing? You start subtly. Withdraw a little after a moment of closeness. Say less after an emotional connection. Let the silence settle in. It doesn't create hate, it creates unease. They start asking themselves questions they can't answer. Did I mess up? Are they losing interest? What changed? Suddenly, you are no longer the one chasing. They are. And they're not just chasing your presence. They're chasing reassurance. You've done something far more powerful than criticize. You've made them question their own stability. You flipped the balance. Now they feel like the unpredictable one. They fear that they might lose you. And once someone fears that, they'll start performing. They'll adjust, overthink, analyze every interaction, anything to keep you close. because now the game isn't about connection. It's about survival. People don't fear losing what they never valued. So your job isn't to be everywhere or always available. Your job is to give them just enough a glimpse of something sacred. A few words that feel deeply personal, a moment that feels carved out just for them, enough to make them feel trusted, even chosen. Once someone feels chosen, they fear being unchosen more than anything else. Losing you isn't just about losing a person anymore. It becomes the loss of something far more intimate, a privilege. And humans are biologically wired to panic over loss of privilege. They cling, they beg, they bargain. But you, stay still. Your loyalty must be offered. Like rare wine, a sip here, a toast there, a taste of something unforgettable. But never the full bottle. It will crave more. And even worse, they'll dread the day the glass goes empty. That dread keeps them in motion, keeps them addicted. Everyone carries an insecurity they've been trying to outrun. For some, it's the fear of being unwanted. The silent belief they're not enough. Your presence, warm, empowering, rare, becomes a temporary cure. You become the person who makes that insecurity disappear, but only sometimes. That's the key, not always. Just enough when you make them feel powerful, accepted, whole. They attach that feeling to you. They link their emotional relief directly to your presence. So when you subtly fade, the fear returns. The insecurity creeps back in. Now they associate you not just with affection, but with safety, identity, and inner peace. They don't love you. They love who they become with. You and that. That is a bond far stronger than infatuation. Even the thought of you leaving now feels like a threat to their emotional stability. The fear masquerades as attachment. It isn't just heartbreak. They fear its regression. Back to the doubt, the loneliness, the version of themselves they thought they'd left behind. You became the barrier between them and their demons. Machiavelli understood. Most people don't fear rejection. They fear confusion. They fear being left without closure. If someone believes you might leave, they grow anxious. But if they believe you might leave because of them, they don't just feel anxious, they begin to strive. They try harder, speak softer, offer more, never threaten to leave. It weakens your position. Instead, plant subtle questions. I just hope you're not becoming like everyone else, or people don't lose me because I walk away. They lose me when they stop recognizing how rare I am. These are not threats. These are mirrors. They don't provoke defense. They provoke self-doubt. Now they're not afraid of you walking away. They're terrified of being the reason you do. They don't just want to be close to youth. They want to earn the right to stay there. And once you become part of their daily thoughts, memories, and identity, something else happens. You stop being just a person. You become their compass, their standard, their voice of reason. You don't just affect their emotions. You begin to influence their decisions. Subtle phrases like, "You're better than that," or "That's not how I see you," can completely shift their behavior. Why? Because they don't just want your affection anymore. They crave your moral approval. And when you control someone's self-image, you control their actions. You can go silent for hours, and they will text 3 times. Read old messages. Zoom in on punctuation. Play your last voice note like it holds a secret code. 'Cause Machiavelli never had to speak loudly. Silence was his sharpest weapon. You've made them dependent on your unpredictability. They're hooked on trying to fix what they never broke. They're already chasing their own obsession. And you just remain a few calculated steps ahead. Not far, not gone, just always out of reach. This is the fine art of psychological presence. You're near enough to feel real, but distant enough to remain unattainable. Obsession doesn't die in distance, it dies in overexposure. That's why you feed it with precision. Nothing fuels obsession more than the mystery of absence. Not a dramatic exit, not a fight. Just the quiet, carefully timed vanishing act. A sudden stillness in the middle of closeness. Like smoke disappearing into the air you don't explain, you don't announce. You simply fade. Slowly, strategically. First, your messages take a little longer. then your warmth cools just enough to be noticed but not questioned. You remain visible, yet emotionally removed. And if they ask, you never give them the answer they expect. You respond with serene ambiguity. Nothing's wrong. I've just been in my head. That calm response plants chaos in their mind. What does that mean? Did I do something? Did I miss a sign? Their mind begins the spiral, and you never have to push. That's when the obsession deepens. Not because you said something cruel or made a dramatic exit, but because you left them with a puzzle they feel desperate to solve. You didn't break the connection, you loosened it, just enough for them to fear losing it entirely. Even as you fade, you leave fingerprints everywhere. A playlist you once shared plays in their car unexpectedly. A phrase you used echoes from someone else's lips. The street corner you used to meet on now feels haunted. You become a ghost knot, one that haunts their house, but one that haunts their mind. This is how you make the invisible unforgettable. The less they see you, the more they feel you. Because now, you're not just someone they knew. You're everywhere they don't expect, but secretly hope to find you. And what happens when the silence stretches? Their own imagination fills the gaps. Their hopes, regrets, insecurities. They project all of it onto your absence. Maybe they're testing me. Maybe I meant more than I realized. Maybe they're waiting for me to reach out first. You've said nothing, but their mind is screaming. You leave subtle sparks. Watch their story, but don't reply. Like a photo, but don't message. Send a vague line with no explanation. Made me think of you today, then vanish again. These breadcrumbs are not just reminders, they're triggers. Reminders that you're alive, watching, remembering, but not engaging. That uncertainty? That's the leash. You never yank it. You let them tug it themselves. Each unanswered message, each delayed response tightens the emotional grip. They're not chasing closure anymore. They're chasing validation, permission, meaning. And when they're at their most desperate, emotionally parched, and lost in the desert of silence, you reappear. But not as the version they remember. No, you return more refined, more detached, sharper, cooler. You no longer speak with the same softness. Your smile is still there, but it doesn't linger as long. You reply but without the emotional echo they once craved. They notice. They feel it before they can describe it. Something's changed. They'll try to recreate what once was. They'll overthink every word, revisit every memory, mimic past behavior. But it never works, because you're no longer responding to their present self. You're reacting to a version of them that only existed when your warmth still flowed freely. And that's the genius of your shift. They aren't trying to win you back. They're trying to resurrect something that only existed in the past. They're not chasing you anymore. They're chasing their memory of you. A memory you carefully shaped, then fractured. People never stop chasing ghosts that once made them feel safe. And ghosts never explain why they left. They just linger quiet, powerful, unsolvable. They try everything: jokes, apologies, deep confessions, but it all falls short. Because you no longer belong to the emotional world they inhabit. You've made yourself unreachable not by hiding, but by changing. They're no longer chasing you. They're chasing relief from the person they became because of you. The cycle traps them, built not from chaos, but from rhythm. Your silence, your attention, your warmth, your withdrawal, all of it composed like a song they can't stop playing. You offered just enough paradise to make ordinary life unbearable without you. That's not manipulation. That's myth-building.legend status. Start shaping your myth. Speak about your past in poetic, ambiguous ways. Describe you in extreme terms. Mysterious, powerful, unreadable. You don't give people facts. They create them for you. And when someone doesn't fully understand who you are, they fill in the gaps with imagination, with myth. The more silent you are, the more noise they make on your behalf. And still, you never defend your image. Let them argue over it. Let the debate swirl. Is he cold or calculated? Is she wise or dangerous? What is it about them that feels both comforting and terrifying? The moment someone starts defending you to others, They've crossed the line from follower to believer. They've become your priest, your silent ambassador, preaching your story without being asked. And once you become a story someone can't stop telling, you've transcended being merely a memory, because stories outlive memories. Memories fade, but legends are passed on. What begins as admiration turns into loyalty. What once felt like connection now feels like doctrine. And once you've reached that point, it's no longer about attention. It's about power. Now, it's time to use that myth. Machiavelli didn't just want admiration, he wanted obedience. Obsession, when shaped with precision, becomes the highest form of influence. And that influence doesn't require commands. It requires identity. When someone links their sense of self to you, they don't just want your presence, they need to earn it. They crave your approval, not for love, but to feel aligned. That's the most silent, enduring kind of control. And here's the secret. When someone obsessively seeks your validation, don't reward them based on their affection. That's too common, too shallow. Reward them based on loyalty. Echoed belief, subtle conformity. They defend your name, you offer warmth. They adopt your unspoken principles, you show trust. They mirror your moods, anticipate your standards, and without realizing it, begin to shape their behaviors around what pleases you. They think, the more I align with what makes them proud, the more I feel like I matter, like I belong. That is the birth of behavioral loyalty. A deep, unconscious reshaping of self, driven not by rules but by reverence. Now raise the standard again with silence. You don't need to explain your expectations. You simply live them. Emotional self-control, grace under pressure, loyalty without prompts. These are not traits you teach. They are energies you carry. And because people are drawn to what they respect, they start to adjust. They soften their chaos. They raise their tone. They self-correct not because you asked, but because your presence demands it. This is how invisible laws are born, not with rules, not with punishments, but with selective warmth. You give less to the ones who falter, more to the ones who align. And slowly, without words, a system of values forms around you. Surface-level obsession burns out, but obsession grounded in shared belief, ideological alignment that lasts a lifetime. What quiet, uncomfortable truths do you carry that most would never say out loud? That most people are too soft to lead? That loyalty is a currency, not a gift. That silence speaks deeper than confession. You don't shout these truths, you drop them like stones into water. Let them ripple, let them sink. Those who agree, they begin to rewire their thinking to reflect you. Not from pressure, it's from admiration. They're not just obsessed with being around you anymore. They're obsessed with becoming like you. You are. Now, the answer to a question they didn't know how to ask. People wander through life carrying unnamed voids, a hunger to feel powerful, a longing to be understood without words, a secret desire to be feared and adored all at once. You don't directly fill those voids, you reflect them. You give the illusion that only you understand them, and that illusion is more binding than reality. That's why walking away from you feels like a form of spiritual death. Try to leave, they never really do, because nothing after you feels real. No one else sees them the way you did. You were never just a person. You were a gateway, threshold to the version of themselves they liked most. And when you disappear, that version vanishes too. The door closes. Machiavelli never needed to command people directly. He made them think it was their idea all along. You do the same? You plant seeds in casual conversation, an idea, a vision, a belief, and let time do the watering. Every time they please you, you praise just enough. Every time they act in alignment, you validate. So eventually they don't even realize whose thoughts they're thinking. They just believe they're growing. But it's always growth in your direction. They begin to equate intelligence with agreeing with you, power with pleasing. They'll say it just makes sense, or I always felt this way. Without realizing those thoughts were shaped by your presence. That's not just influence. That's ownership without resistance. You're no longer just a person. You've become a symbol, a presence, an archetype, a name that carries weight. You're no longer seen as flawed or fully human. You've been mythologized by design. Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. Awe and fear operate best when their source feels slightly inhuman, so remain distant. Speak with intention. Let mystery replace confession. Let your silence do the sculpting. You are no longer just part of their world. You've become a fixed point in their sky. Unreachable, unrelenting, eternal. You influence it from the shadows.